What if the most important clue about your ancestry isn't hidden in a DNA test, an old photograph, or a forgotten family document? What if it has been sitting in plain sight your entire life? You write it on forms, you sign it on documents, you hear it spoken every day, your surname. Most people think their last name is simply a family label passed down through generations, but many surnames are far older than most people realize. Some contain fragments of a lost language, others preserve the memory of villages that vanished centuries ago, and a surprising number may carry echoes of the Anglo-Saxons, the people who shaped England long before castles, kings, and conquerors transformed the country. Today, we're uncovering the hidden history buried inside your surname. Where did these names come from? Why have some survived for more than 1,000 years? And could your family name reveal a forgotten connection to England's Anglo-Saxon past? Stay until the end, because we'll reveal a simple 5-surname challenge that may completely change how you view your family history. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and tell us your surname in the comments below. You may be surprised by what it reveals. Now let's travel back to a time when surnames didn't exist at all. Imagine walking through an English village 1,000 years ago. You meet a man named Edward. A few steps later, you meet another Edward, then another, then another. Within a single community, dozens of people might share the same first name. There was no Smith, no Baker, no Wood, no Walker, just Edward, or Leofric, or Godwine. It quickly became a problem. People needed a way to tell individuals apart. At first, the solutions were simple. Edward the blacksmith, Leofric from the hill, Godwine with the red hair, Edward, son of Edmund. These descriptions seemed temporary. Nobody realized they were creating something that would eventually become one of the most important tools in family history, the surname. But to understand why surnames became so important, we first need to understand the world before they existed. Before hereditary surnames became common, England was an Anglo-Saxon world. The Anglo-Saxons were not a single tribe. They were a mixture of Germanic peoples, including the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, who arrived in Britain after the decline of Roman rule during the 5th century. Over generations, they established kingdoms across much of England. They brought their language, their customs, their laws, and their names. Names such as Ethelred, Edgar, Wulfstan, Leofric, Godwin, and Eadwine were common. Many carried powerful meanings. Ethel meant noble. Wulf meant wolf. Leof meant beloved. These names reflected ideals of strength, loyalty, honor, and leadership. Yet almost nobody possessed a hereditary surname. Instead, people were identified by their personal name and perhaps a description. The system worked reasonably well in small communities. But England was changing. Population was growing. Trade was expanding. Records were becoming increasingly important. And then came an event that changed everything. In 1066, the forces of William, Duke of Normandy, crossed the English Channel and defeated King Harold at the Battle of Hastings. The Norman Conquest remains one of the most famous events in European history. Many people assume this conquest erased Anglo-Saxon culture forever, but history is rarely that simple. The Norman elite introduced French customs, French language influences, and new naming traditions. Many Anglo-Saxon nobles lost power, yet ordinary people remained, farmers remained, villagers remained, craftsmen remained, and so did countless fragments of the Anglo-Saxon language. The conquerors ruled England, but the population beneath them remained overwhelmingly English. Over time, Norman and Anglo-Saxon traditions blended together, creating the foundations of modern English society. That fusion would eventually shape the surnames millions of people carry today. Between the 11th and 15th centuries, England experienced a naming revolution. Governments demanded records. Land ownership became more complex. Taxes expanded. Churches maintained baptism and marriage registers. Officials needed reliable ways to identify people. Gradually, descriptive labels stopped being temporary and became hereditary. A son inherited his father's identifying name. Then his grandson inherited it. Then future generations carried it forward. A blacksmith's son might never work a forge, yet he remained smith. A baker's grandson might never bake bread, yet he remained baker. A family that moved away from a hill centuries earlier could still carry the surname Hill. The original meaning often faded, but the name survived. Over time, 4 major surname categories emerged. The first category was patronymic surnames. These identified people through their fathers. Edward's son became Edwardson, Edmund's son became Edmundson, Godwin's son became Godwinson. Later, William's son became Williamson. These names preserve real family relationships that existed centuries ago. They remind us that behind every surname was once a living person whose descendants carried his identity forward through history. The second category was occupational surnames. These include some of the most common surnames in the English-speaking world: Smith, Wright, Webb, Thatcher, Baker, Chapman, and Miller. Each one reflects an essential role within medieval society. A smith worked metal. A Wright was a skilled craftsman. A Webb wove cloth. A Chapman traded goods. A miller operated a grain mill. The surname Smith became especially common because every village depended on a blacksmith. Without blacksmiths, communities could not function. The third category was descriptive surnames. Imagine a village containing 3 men named Thomas. One is unusually tall, another has red hair, a third is exceptionally strong. People naturally begin calling them Long, Reed, or Strong. Over time, these descriptions became family names. Ironically, modern descendants may share none of the original characteristics. Yet the surname continues carrying a centuries-old observation made by someone whose name has long been forgotten. The fourth category may be the most fascinating of all, locational surnames. Imagine leaving your village during the Middle Ages and settling somewhere new. When people ask where you come from, you answer with a description of your home. Perhaps it was near a hill, a brook, a ford, a wood. Soon those descriptions become your identity. Hill, wood, brook, ford, Atwood, Underhill, Easton, Weston. Many of these names preserve geographical features that still exist today. Some preserve places that disappeared centuries ago. Entire villages vanished through plague, migration, economic change, or agricultural transformation. Yet their names survived inside family surnames. In some cases, the surname is the only remaining evidence that a settlement ever existed. This leads to one of the most remarkable discoveries in surname history. The Old English language never completely disappeared. It evolved, fragments survived, and surnames became time capsules. Wood preserves the Old English word woodoo. Ford comes from an Old English term for a river crossing. Field derives from feld. Names ending in ham often refer to homesteads or settlements, while names ending in ton usually derive from the Old English tun, meaning enclosure or farmstead. These endings appear everywhere across England. Each one is a linguistic fossil, preserving a fragment of the Anglo-Saxon world. Now here's the challenge. Take 5 surnames from your family tree, not just your own. Include grandparents and great-grandparents if possible. Write them down and ask yourself 5 questions. What does each name mean? Does it describe a place, a profession, a characteristic, or a family relationship? Can you identify any Old English elements? Can you discover where the surname was historically concentrated? Can you trace the story hidden inside the name? Many people uncover surprising connections when they do this. A single surname can open the door to an entire forgotten world. If you've already thought of a surname while watching, post it in the comments below and tell us where your family comes from. You may discover connections and stories you never expected. By now, you may never look at surnames the same way again. They are not merely labels, they are artifacts. Every surname represents a story, a father remembered, a profession practiced, a place inhabited, a characteristic noticed, a language spoken long ago. Some connect directly to the Anglo-Saxon world, others reflect Norman influences. Many contain elements of both. Together, they tell the story of England itself, a history shaped by migration, conquest, adaptation, and survival. The remarkable thing is not that surnames changed. The remarkable thing is that so many survived. Across wars, across plagues, across oceans, across continents, they continued traveling through generations until eventually they reached you. If you've enjoyed this exploration into the hidden history of surnames, please like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more ancestry mysteries and family history discoveries. The next time you write your surname, pause for a moment. Think about the countless people who carried it before you. Farmers, craftsmen, villagers, mothers, fathers, children. Most of their stories have vanished. Their voices are gone. Their homes may be gone. Even the places where they lived may have disappeared from maps. Yet something endured, a name. A simple collection of letters passed quietly from one generation to the next. And hidden within that name may be traces of a world that existed before castles dominated the landscape, before modern English was spoken, and before Norman kings ruled England. Your surname may not reveal every detail of your ancestry, but it offers something equally valuable, a connection, a thread stretching backward through centuries, a reminder that history is not only found in museums, archives, and ancient manuscripts. Sometimes history is something you carry with you every day. Sometimes history is your name, and sometimes the oldest story in your family is the one you've been saying your entire life. Thank you for watching.